Welcome to the IT Career Energizer podcast. For anyone who wants to build and grow a career in IT, develop and improve your strengths and skills, be inspired and motivated by the successes of others, manage your career progression, and achieve your IT career goals. And now, your host, Phil Burgess.
Welcome to episode 313 of the IT Career Energizer podcast. My guest on today's show has more than 30 years of experience in the industry, having started his career as a coder with Apple. He went on to manage online systems for Walmart and Sears before creating the successful startup MediaMaster. He is now the Chief Technical Officer for R0. So I'm delighted to welcome to the podcast, Neil Day.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here.
Neil, I think a good place to start may be for you to tell us a little bit about R0 and what your role of Chief Technical Officer entails.
Great. Happy to. So R0 is a biosafety company. We basically are helping people return safely to schools and offices and other places where they gather by providing disinfection technology to remove pathogens from spaces, and also help them understand the process of disinfection so they can have confidence that spaces are safe. And we do this with a couple of different things. We build hardware. All of our systems right now are based on ultraviolet C technology, and the devices basically flood a room with UVC and kill viruses, bacteria, and mold. And they also have an IoT component that collects data on when and how and where the devices were run and report it back up to our system so that customers can follow the progression of disinfection over a period of time. And where we're headed with this is basically integrating these disinfection tools, the data we collect with risk models, so that we can help people understand how they're improving the safety of spaces.
Right. Okay. So obviously this is very much, I suppose, relevant, really, very much to the current world and the world we live in with Corona or COVID or whatever you want to refer to it as. So is this something that's happened as a result of COVID-19, or is this something that was happening anyway?
Yeah, this actually was born directly of COVID-19. So Ben, Eli, and Grant, the three founders, got together in April of last year, recognizing that coronavirus was going to really change the way that we interacted with spaces and have huge impact on people's daily lives, and started thinking ahead to how we could get back into some semblance of normality. And I think the really interesting insight was that there were already technologies for dealing with transmission and infection management, but they hadn't yet been adapted to what I would say are daily uses. And so taking UVC and figuring out how to make it much more accessible and easier to use for organizations was really the key insight. And the thing that I loved about the company when I was introduced was that they were taking a very user-centric approach to this, trying to build technology that non-experts could use. There was clearly market pull. People were really trying to figure out how to adapt to this new reality, and the team was amazing. It was great fun to work with them, and they made just incredible progress in a very short period of time, and I was eager to be a part of that.
Yeah. In terms of these sort of organizations that make use of this, can you give us maybe a couple of examples?
Absolutely. So the majority of our customers right now are schools. We have a lot of schools who have adopted the first product and are using it to disinfect air and surfaces on a daily basis. And the idea is, reducing pathogen load basically reduces transmission. And we have some customers in senior care where transmission is also a pretty big issue that are using it across a large number of their facilities. And then a bunch of companies in financial services and sort of more traditional workplaces that are using this to bring folks back into the office very successfully.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And in terms of your role as a chief technical officer, what does that involve?
It really involves overseeing all aspects of product development. So we develop the hardware, the embedded systems, and all of the software from the firmware that runs on the embedded systems to the cloud services that collect and aggregate the data and then transform it for use in various applications. So we have two major applications, one that's internally facing that allows us to configure and manage our fleet of devices, and another that's customer facing that helps them understand how the devices have been used in their particular context.
Right. Good. Okay. Great. Well, that's excellent to give us a bit of an insight into the company and how it works. That's fantastic. So, Neil, can you give us maybe a career tip, one that the audience may or not be aware of and perhaps should be?
Yeah. One thing that's been really interesting and important for me is looking across different domains for ideas that you can apply to new problems, basically. So I've always enjoyed learning about different areas of technology outside of IT, and often you can find interesting clues in other verticals for how you solve problems. So a big part of my life is just reading about and playing with things outside of sort of traditional software development and trying to find interesting approaches that have worked in other areas and applying them to new areas, and also looking at software technology and thinking about how it can solve real world problems. So I think that's been a pretty important theme for me, is just having a very broad view and trying to match things that have worked in other areas to the problem at hand, essentially.
Right. Okay. Often you hear people talking about the fact that you obviously look for a solution to a problem. In this instance, maybe you're turning that around slightly to say there may be a solution that solves many problems or different problems.
Absolutely. So so an example of this is when I started Perfect Coffee. We were trying to figure out how to make delicious coffee really easy for people at home. And it turns out that one of the big problems there is getting the particle size of ground coffee exactly right for the bean you're using and the extraction method. And the coffee industry hadn't really solved this problem, and it had turned into kind of more of a craft and art based approach. And as I was looking at this, I recognized that you might be able to use techniques from computer vision and image processing to very accurately characterize ground particle sizes. And so, used a lot of the work that had happened in computer vision and mapping to figure out how to very accurately characterize particle sizes. And so taking a domain that hadn't really been applied to coffee and using it in that context allowed us to solve a problem that hadn't really been solved there before. So that's an example of using techniques from one field and applying it to another and coming up with a novel solution.
Yeah. Okay. So Neil, can you share with us your worst career moment and what you learned from that experience?
My worst career moment. So I think in the early days of Walmart.com, we had a huge push to bring the website up in a very short period of time, and we had a bunch of deadlines that were pretty business critical. So the team had worked incredibly hard to get us to launch, but with new software, there were always problems, and we were not yet very mature from an operations perspective. And so the first month or so after launch was pretty rocky. And there was one very memorable moment where the site went down, and it was sort of in the middle of our peak holiday traffic, and my phone and pager at the time were going bananas, and people were reminding me that we were losing millions of dollars an hour in revenue, and we worked very hard to get it back online, and that period was just very challenging because despite a ton of hard work, we honestly were not prepared for the level of problems and the amount of stress involved in keeping a brand new site alive. And I think, yeah, it was a very tough period. It was about a 6-week period where we just had all kinds of problems, and the team responded brilliantly and solved the problems as they came along, but it was very stressful and very demoralizing.
Sure. So is there anything you sort of took away from that experience that you now do perhaps differently or maybe have learned from that you plan potentially in a different way?
Absolutely. Well, one of the critical things was, first of all, building a strong operations plan. And that's something that we've done in similar circumstances subsequently. So I think one of the learnings was we were underprepared for the unexpected and didn't have kind of all the systems in place. So a key component of site operations or technical operations for the subsequent 18 or 20 years has been making sure we have a good plan in place ahead of time. I think the other thing that experience really highlighted was that in many domains there are good patterns and processes for managing problems and ensuring that you get to root cause and solutions very quickly. And so it turned out that the folks at Walmart in logistics and in their internal IT team had done a tremendous amount of work from this, and we went on just a real. Let me rephrase this a little bit. We worked closely with them to understand their processes and adapt them to sort of modern website operations. So that was an example where we really relied on the good work in other areas to develop our own processes that became very effective.
Yes. Okay. Neil, can you share with us your career highlight?
There are a number of things that have really stood out as highlights. Where we ended up with Walmart.com was pretty amazing. It was sort of an early e-commerce offering, and we spent a tremendous amount of time polishing and developing it. And after a couple of years of doing that, we built a really meaningful business and a really exceptional platform for Walmart. All of the things I've done, I think I've learned something really interesting from along the way. And I kind of look back on all all of my jobs as having added something really interesting to the area that they were working in. So, at Shutterfly, we completely reimagined our storage infrastructure, made it much more scalable, and reduced the cost tremendously by using some new approaches to storage. That was a really interesting and fun journey, and it made a huge difference for Shutterfly from a business perspective, and that it allowed us to really focus on developing new capabilities rather than just paying for existing storage. So I've really tried to find jobs where we could make a big difference to the company by developing a new capability, and generally those have worked out well. And let me think about that for a second.
Yes, it just sounds like that you enjoy the sort of the projects and the initiatives that make a difference. So you actually see the benefits of the outcome of what you deliver.
Absolutely. I think that's the most important thing for me is finding something that has real impact. I love the process of defining and developing some new capability, and the fact that it can make a difference to people who use it and to the businesses. That's really where I find the joy and satisfaction in all of this.
And what excites you about the future of careers in IT?
Well, I think, as pervasive as technology is right now, there are still so many areas that we haven't really explored, and where things that we've learned can make a meaningful difference for the way people interact with the world. I mean, R0 is a perfect example of this, where we've known about UVC disinfection for over a century, but it hasn't been applied in a way that was really usable and transparent and friendly, and so the idea of bringing that to a larger audience is really exciting. And when I look around, I just see so many places where it's possible to do that. I feel like we've got centuries of work to do to kind of keep improving the way we interact with the world around us.
Indeed, yeah. I'm sure there's so much potential, isn't there? And we just can't necessarily imagine what technology will be next and what an impact it will make on society.
Absolutely. And the thing that's also very exciting to me is we keep progressing. So memory and processing power gets more plentiful and cheaper all the time, and that allows us to do things that just weren't even possible before. Communications get more ubiquitous and less error prone. So R0 could not have existed even 5 years ago because just the capabilities around IoT and the ease of building those solutions has just come so far in the last couple of years. So, there's a constant progression, and it opens up new possibilities all the time. And so finding those is really the fun part, and then really digging in and figuring out how to apply them is very rewarding.
We're going to go into the reveal round now. We're going to find out a little bit more about you and the way you think. You ready for this?
Absolutely.
So what first attracted you to a career in IT?
Well, I got interested in technology at a very early age. I started doing Radio Shack kits with my dad when I was 8 or 9, and the hook was set at that point. And discovered programming, and it just was endlessly fascinating to me. And I I could just spend hours, and it was kind of like alchemy, being able to build something from nothing. So
Yeah.
that I knew what I wanted to do from a pretty early age. Because,
Yeah. So you were hooked from an early
yeah.
age, definitely. Yeah. And what is the best career advice you've ever received?
The best career advice really is be solutions focused and results oriented. You know, what people pay you for is helping them solve hard problems and find ways around obstacles, and having a positive attitude and trying to really figure out how to make things better is I think really the key to all of this.
Yes. Yeah, very true. And what is the worst career advice you've ever received?
That's interesting. Um, I'm not sure I can tell you. I tend not to focus on things like that, and I try to find the good stuff and hang on to it, and let the bad stuff fall in your wake. So,
Fine. Okay. If you were to begin your career again in today's world, what would you do?
well, I think one of the things that was really beneficial to me was starting off after college at Apple and working at a larger organization that was focused on innovation. I think understanding how to do things at scale and being a part of a team like that is very, very helpful. I think I would probably do that again. Build a foundation in that kind of environment. I think that experience has helped me work in larger organizations and in tiny startups because you have some idea of where you're going. So I think being around very smart people who have done great things and achieved some scale and absorbing that early in your career is very, very important.
Yes. And what career objectives are you currently focusing on?
I think, my objectives have been fairly consistent over the last 15 or 20 years. I'm very focused on trying to build great solutions to interesting problems and doing it with people that I really enjoy working with, and building teams that can solve really difficult problems. I think for me, the process of figuring these things out in different contexts is really exciting, and so I seek out opportunities to do that, and to touch different domains and bring what I've learned from previous experiences to those new projects.
And what's the number one non-technical skill that has helped you in your career so far?
I would say being good at research and organizing information. So a big part of what I do is kind of doing a broad survey of potential solutions and developing some intuition around uh, where there are promising options, and that involves doing a lot of reading, talking with a lot of people, and building frameworks. So it's really kind of a research and information organization problem, and whether it's designing new software systems or figuring out how to build hardware very quickly, or learning a skill outside of technology. That's something that I just use constantly.
Yeah. And what do you do to keep your own career energized?
Try different things, and work with different people. For me, the the process of learning something new is what keeps this exciting and interesting, and trying to find applications that I haven't really worked in previously. For me, the process of learning and exploring is really what keeps this interesting, and there's just so much opportunity to do that. It's
Yes, exactly. And what do you do in your spare time away from technology?
I have a bunch of hobbies and interests. So I'm a pretty dedicated skier and windsurfer. So getting away from my desk and getting out on the snow or in the water is really important to me. I also play guitar and mandolin and practice quite a bit and have some friends I play with. I think learning something new is important to me too. I've been learning about woodworking and making things with my hands for the last several years. So that's been a really fun exploration. It also has some other attributes I like, which is, researching the right way to do stuff and learning about fun tools and equipment. I find that really entertaining. So,
Right. Good. Okay. Neil, can you share with us a parting piece of career advice?
a really important thing for me has been finding great people to work with and helping them develop their skills and do things that they may have thought were not possible. So developing a team and helping them excel is really important and something that I derive a lot of satisfaction from.
Right. Good. Okay. Neil, where can we find out more about you and connect with you?
So a great way to connect with me is through LinkedIn, or you can get in touch with me through r0.com as well.
Great. Neil, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. It's been great chatting with you.
Great. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Hi, Phil here again. Well, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with today's guest. You can find full show notes on the website at itcareerenergizer.com/e and the number of the episode you've been listening to. If you haven't already subscribed to the show, please make sure that you do so that you get episodes automatically downloaded to your device every Monday. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the IT Career Energizer podcast. To find out more about building a successful career in IT, visit itcareerenergizer.com.